Hello everyone. I am getting ready to put resin in some bezels, which essentially are rings that have been soldered together. And instead of using it as a ring, I'm going to use it as a bezel. Sorry, my hands are so dirty. I've been already mixing resin. So resin and hardener can get your hands kind of gross. And then also my copper ring leaves a ring around my thumb, but I'm going to put a little resin on top of my turquoise just to brighten it up a little bit. So anyway, that's why my hands are so yucky. Okay, no point in washing them yet because I still have more to go. I also have dried flowers that I did out of my yard, not even my garden, but my yard in the spring. Let me tilt my camera just a little bit. And I just put them between book pages and dried them, and now I'm going to place them. In these two bezels here, I have some mica powder laid down on the silicone sheets, and then under the silicone I have a piece of hardboard. So when I'm done, I can take this to the resin light. These two I haven't quite decided what I want to put in yet, but I think I'm ready to do all of these. So I have measured equal parts of B. The cup's kind of dirty right now, I haven't wiped it out, to equal parts of A. A is resin and B is hardener. And I put those inside of this mixing cup. It's really, really important that you keep everything separate until you're ready to mix. So mixing is for mixing. A and B are for hardener or resin, and don't get those things mixed up. So each mixing has a popsicle stick, A has a popsicle stick, and B has a popsicle stick, and we cannot mix those up. And same with the bottle. A, and then there's a dropper if you need a little bit of resin and hardener. There's a dropper, but always put that back with the tip up so that if there's any remaining liquid in the dropper, it doesn't drain out in the box when you're storing it. So that way it's just kind of reserved in there for the next person. If you don't mix the two parts together, they will never set up. So each bottle has a dropper, and then the popsicle stick, when it gets wiped off, gets placed underneath the rubber band. So everything B, 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 A, A, A. Don't mix up your lids either when you put them all back. And I have the lids marked as well. So just make sure everything matches when you put it back. The mica powder that I have placed here it's in like little makeup vials. You just need a little bit to go, a little bit goes a long way. And then we also have alcohol inks that you can mix in also with your resin to color it. I'm gonna use mine clear today. All right, fresh flowers, even though they're dry, tend to curl. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to try to prevent that. So I've been mixing this for 7 to 10 minutes. So you want to make sure you mix for quite a while. And then I'm going to use the popsicle stick to place a little bit in my bezels. Now the silicone, the blue underneath my bezels, is designed, or I guess science, doesn't stick to the resin. So I'm gonna use my stick because I don't really want to pour it, because if you pour it, it tends to leak out. Also, I don't want to fill all the way to the top yet, because I want to place my flowers. In the box, the resin box, we have tweezers ready to go for you guys to use. There's a bag of tweezers, the mica powders, the dyes, all of those things are available in the box. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my flower and I'm going to place it. Now I want my flower to sit in that resin for a while, because if it starts to curl up, I can push it back down. These are going to be 2 earrings. It doesn't really matter that they're not matching in orientation yet, because I have a bit of but because they're circles, so I can adjust them however I want. Got a couple little holes in my resin there. Now, if resin does leak out of the sides around the base, you guys can cut that off with X-Acto knives and file it down. No big deal. All right, the mica powder, I want to be careful that I don't touch it too much. I don't want to mess up my mica powder. So I'm just going to put some resin in there until it kind of fills the bottom. See, I got a little bit out on the outside. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Kind of, without touching the bottom of the mica powder, I'm just kind of smushing that bubble of resin around. Now, I have a sign out sheet on the resin box. It's a plastic container. I have a sign out sheet because I want to make sure that people clean it up and get it ready for next time, for the next person. So the resin is you can't clean it with water, which is frustrating, but you can't take everything over to the sink and just wash it all off. You have to only dry wipe everything. So I have paper towels in the box, and that's what you do. You just dry wipe everything down, and I'll show you that in a minute here after I get my little flowers kind of down in the resin. And I'm going to keep an eye on these little guys and make sure that the petals don't start kind of coming up. This one's got more dimension to it, so it might, I'm going to give it a little smash. It might be a little higher than my bezel, but that's okay. Okay, I'm going to let those sit for a little bit and I'll come back and check on them. All right, this one's very shallow. This one's been hammered. The wire has been hammered out, so I don't know how it's going to work, but I don't know. Let's see. A little something there. If you have anything on your plastic or your silicone sheet, it will show up in your. It might be a little messier with this one just because it's so shallow, and actually let the resin kind of scoot around outside the bezel. All right, bubbles. If you have a lot of bubbles, we can use a lighter over the top. You gotta be careful if you have flowers because you might burn them. I'm gonna do this one beforehand. So we have these lighters. I'm just gonna flicker the flame over the resin and it'll pop all those little bubbles. So if I have any in here, I gotta be real careful I don't burn my flower. So go quick, fast, fast, fast. Also, if you over lighter your resin, it will yellow. So be careful of that. And I'm gonna go ahead and push this one down. And then leave an indentation, and hopefully I can then add a little bit of resin over the top of that once it's set. So I'm going to come back and poke these around. This one got a little full. Now that mica powder on the back side of these will cut down on the translucency, but it still will be kind of translucent. I have quite a bit of resin mixed up, but it tends to hold for a while. Again, I have a little bit of something on my sheet, but it's not coming off. I kind of tend to be a little heavy-handed there with some of these. If you order any dried flowers from Amazon, sometimes they seem to be like freeze dried or something, so that they have a little bit more of a I don't know, chemical maybe on them or something, but they don't tend to float as bad. So if you want to order any flowers from Amazon, go for it. Which flowers? Maybe this one. Yeah. All right, we have a resin light in the classroom. Within reason, I mean, this is kind of big, but the resin light is like what you'd see at the nail salon. And so you can just put that light right over the top of your pieces, but still, even though we have that light, it still takes about 24 hours to set your pieces. All right, these guys aren't really popping up too much, so I might go ahead and put another layer over the top of them. See, that just made that float around. So it might have been a little too hasty, but hopefully the flowers are starting to kind of pick up some of that resin, like absorb some of the resin instead of water, so maybe they'll be okay. But probably I will go ahead and just kind of leave that alone, and then tomorrow I'll mix up a little bit, just a little bit of resin, and go ahead and top these off with another layer. But my ring, I'm gonna just take a little bit off the stick and just tap it over the top. So if you ever do a resin bezel and it gets a little cloudy, or if by chance you touched it or something, you got fingerprints on it, just take your your bezel, your stone, and take a little, especially if somebody has some mixed up in the room, pay attention, and then you'll be like, hey, I need just a tiny bit of resin to tap onto my my stone that I made, and then it'll brighten it up and shine it up. So, oh, sorry, I was kind of off camera, but anyway, I just kind of tapped resin over that, and I'll let that sit up, and it'll be nice and bright. It just brightened up all the turquoise again. Okay, that's how we pour our resins. I will go ahead and kind of move this stuff, and then I'll show you how I clean up. Okay, so now we're gonna clean up. So anything that you'd use, like mica powder, dyes, these little foil things, anything to use, just make sure you put back in the box. And I connect four, but anyway, so put them back in the box that they came in, that they were ordered in, or packaged in, sorry. And then we also have these little flakes. So you can also, instead of doing flowers, you can do like flakes and shiny little things and all kinds of stuff. The bag for tweezers is labeled tweezers for resin for flowers, and the like little beads also are good for resin to like put some beads, the little sparkly stuff, any of that jazz. And so I keep a paper towel roll in the box, and you literally just dry wipe everything down. So I'm starting with B, and I wipe it, and you can tell I feel like I got most of the sticky or the liquidy stuff off. Then I'll wipe with paper towel again. I do have some gloves in the box, but they are dish gloves that you would wash dishes with, so we don't throw them away. You reuse them. So if you want to wear gloves, go for it. It can be a little bit bulky, but if you're sensitive or you're not good with the paper towels. So you can see I still have resin down in there, or in this case hardener, B. So I'm going to flip my towel around and really get the corners of the towel down in the corner of this little cup. These are, again, silicone cups, but still, if it's left in there, it will cause a mess for everybody else. So don't do it. Don't be that person that leaves your dirty dishes for somebody else to clean. It's not pleasant if you're ready to use it and it's left in mess. So yeah, 5 minutes. So 7-minute bell rings and you're doing resin, you might not have enough time to clean up, because this is definitely a longer cleanup process. All right, I'm gonna check the edge or rim, I guess, see if I spilled any. I'll check here to see if this dropper has, if I use the dropper to see if it has any resin or hardener on the outside of it. You can see that I think people have gotten hardener and resin mixed together because it's really starting to build up. Not inside the dropper, but on the bottle itself. So again, when you have your paper towels and you're cleaning up, don't use B paper towels to clean A. You'll contaminate. And so that lid is clean, so we're gonna put it on top. If it's got anything in it, it'll drain all over the bottle and make a mess. Oh, and the B. So there's a rubber band, you just stick the B tools into the B bottle. Okay, next is A. Wipe off the stick. A is a little less, it's a little less sticky. Wipe off A cup. I wrote on these with Sharpie. They tend to peel off, and I put some clear fingernail polish over the top, but it still stained the cup enough. So you should know which is A and which is B. Again, I'm pushing down into the corner of that cup and really wiping. Pressing hard. Check the rim, make sure I didn't drip. Check this, if I used it, make sure it's nice and clean. The resin bottle, like I said, is not as sticky, so it doesn't have as much residue, but make sure you wipe everything off. If you touch this and it feels gross, wipe it off. Okay, I still have resin in my cup and I still have some more things to pour. But I would do the same exact thing with this. Wipe it all down with paper towel. And I have a bigger mixing cup if you needed a ton of resin, but usually we don't use this one anymore. So you wipe all this out, wipe off the stick, and you put the stick in the rubber band and put the little mixing cup inside of the big mixing cup. And that's how we store our mixing cups. And then everything goes inside of our box. And so all the components go inside of this box. The bottles go back in the epoxy resin box. These guys go into the storage box. And yeah, everything, this mat and this instruction plastic sheet gets folded up nicely and put back in the box. So I'll show you that here in a minute.